You know, and another thing that grinds my gears is the level of stupidity in these people. And for that, one example is on the campaigns where you actually call out a name, they will say over and over, "Who is this all retarded?" I'll be like, "Yes, Mrs. Williams." "Who is this?" "This is Larry Toussaint, and I'm hoping to get a hold of Mr. or Mrs. Williams." "Who is this?" "This is Larry Toussaint. I'm hoping to get a hold of Mr. or Mrs. Williams." "Who is this?" And here's where Shrek's ogre sarcasm comes in. I'd be like, "My name is," this is the part where I say my name. "Now listen, Larry Toussaint. Now I'm hoping to get a hold of Mr. or Mrs. Williams," and they'll be like, "Sir, you're not to ever call this number again," and hang up. It's like it's their way of saying, "How dare you be sarcastic with me while I'm retarded?" And this one right here, this one still to this present day, although it happened in 2004, still irks my nerves. But it was a wrong number incident that I almost got a sale out of. But yeah, I'd called this woman and I said, "Yes, Jane?" And she's like, "No, I think you got the wrong number." And I'm like, "I'm sure I have the right number, just the wrong name, but maybe you can help." I start my presentation, and she pledged $25 to the Texas Department of Public Safety Officers Association, or as I called it, the Texas Department of Pubic Safety Off Fuckers Association. But yeah, she pledged $25, and right when I was about to take down her correct information and recalibrate it to where everything goes to her, she was like, "No, I'm not Jane. I'm sorry. It looks like you had the wrong number after all. I am so sorry to have done that to you." And I'm like, "No, what I'm going to do is take down your information and recalibrate it to where it comes to you." And she's like, "Yeah, but you see, this call doesn't look like it was for me. I really wish I could help, but maybe you'll call back when it's my turn." I'm like, "Ma'am, listen, I'm going to send it to you. This is your turn." "No, I can't do this because it's taking someone else's win." And then she hung the phone up, and I got so pissed off when she did that, I started pounding on the counter and hollering, "Stupid bitch, stupid bitch, stupid bitch." And then the office manager, Emmanuel Zapata, was like, "Do it again, Toussaint." I'm like, "Do what again? Hit the table and holler stupid bitch, or end up losing a sale because the bitch is so stupid she doesn't know what right number means?" Because I can do either one. And another one, I kind of think this one is funny, but whenever these people hang up when you say their name, because there have been quite a few times, and get this, some people in society, you may legitimately have the wrong number, but this is the thing. You call them, you say the name, they hang up. So what do? We reschedule them repetitively. And after about 8 or 9 rounds of calling and saying that name, they'll be like, "Why do you people keep calling? You have the wrong number." And I'll be like, "Well, if you would have said that the first time, instead of just hanging up when we say your name, we could have got you out of here by now and you wouldn't have to go through this melee." And there has been a time that I called this one on a past supporter. I had called her and I said her name, Mary Ann Denner. Well, that's just a fictitious name to protect the innocent. I'm like, "Yes, Mrs. Denner." Click. So I logged out, dialed her back manually, and when she answered, I'm like, "Excuse me, but I need to speak to Mrs. Mary Ann Denner." And she's like, "This is she." I start the presentation, and she's like, "I'm fine, but y'all have called before, and I said I couldn't do it." And I said, "Actually, I tried to call you just a few minutes ago to give you your biannual 'Would you like to renew your continued support' call, and well, I just said your name, and you hung up." And she's like, "I know, because I can't do it anymore." Click. And needless to say, before I logged out and dialed her back manually, I did program it to reschedule anyway, so she was going to end up getting another call. And another thing, the people fall silent on the phone when you ask a simple question such as, "Is there by any chance a Mr. Miller there?" And instead of saying one way or the other, yes or no, they just fall silent like a deer staring into the headlights. Because I remember one time I called New Orleans, and this woman answered the phone, and of course the contact name was Mrs. Miller. And the woman was like, she's not home right now. And I'm like, is there by any chance a Mr. Miller available? And she didn't say nothing. And after 5 seconds, I'm like, you took too long. And she's like, no, you took too long. And I'm like, no, because I asked you a simple yes or no question. Is there a Mr. Miller available? You shouldn't have to think about that. If there is one, say there is and put them on. If there isn't, say that. I mean, the line of silence I got out of you, I would expect it if I said, can you explain Pythagorean's theorem to me? But no, I just said, is there a Mr. Miller? That's it. And of course, oh man, don't even get me started. Don't get me started on these churches. Yes, we even call churches. And for those who think that the church is a sacred and holy ground, I got news for you. Get a pastor or a minister on the phone with a professional fundraiser. You get to see the unholy side of that individual. I have been cussed out by preachers. I have been hung up on by preachers. And then I would tell them things like, but what do you think Jesus would have to say about this outrage? No, they do not like that at all. And one time I called a church and she told me to take the church off the list. And I said, are you the minister? She's like, no, and I said, okay, if you're not the minister, I can't do that. Until I get the chance to speak to him, I'm doing no such thing. So as far as I'm concerned, churches and the do not call list don't go together. And these combative ones, the ones that start cussing, oh yes, I had a way of dealing with them. I would start my presentation and they'd get cussing and I'd be like, well, I sense your eagerness to donate there. Because, for example, when I was calling this campaign in Texas, well, I got the wife on the phone. The husband was the main supporter, Elliot Johnson. But Jackie answered the phone. And I'm like, yes, Mrs. Johnson. She's like, this is Jackie. So I went ahead and went through the presentation, thanking her and Elliot for all the outstanding help and support they've given in the past. When I get to the dollar amounts, we got the hero spot for 57 and the outstanding citizen of 37. Jackie, which one is best for you? And she said, I don't think I'm going to do this. And I told her, Jackie, I know times are tough. The last thing I want to do is overburden you. So I will go ahead and put you down for a booster of $27. Yes. And I will get it out to you at. And I read off her address to her and she's like, excuse me, sir. And I'm like, oh, did you have a question for me? Because, oh boy, I love these questions. And she's like, I said no. Oh, well, I guess no questions are good questions. Then I did the same thing again with $22. And she's like, what part of no do you not understand? And I'm like, well, it's not about how much you give, just the fact that you get involved, Jackie. But regardless, though, you are getting put down for a booster of $17. And she calls Elliot over to the phone saying, I told this idiot no 3 times and he just will not listen to me. And then Elliot's like, sir, I believe my wife told you no 3 times. That's sufficient enough. You might as well just hang it up, okay? And then I told him, well, Elliot, I do realize you are a past supporter and I'd really hate to lose you behind. No, hang it up. Elliot, you sound very eager to donate. Hang it up now. So I kept closing in on him, and he's like, all right, I got to hang the damn thing up myself. Click. Got to be the funniest call I ever made, too. And what about these people that have just too many questions? It's like I'm trying to do the presentation, and I got this one woman who started teabagging me with questions. If you got questions, I don't mind providing answers, but Jiminy Cripes, give me a chance to answer them. It's like, what is this? Is this a private union? I'm still trying to answer the first one, and she's just bombarding me, and I'm like, hey, now I don't mind assisting you with any questions, comments, concerns, i.e. inquiries, but if I may, though, I would like to do this by way of one question at a time. And she just let out that sigh. She's like, ah, you know what, just take me off this list. Ah, click. Funny. Oh, and as we all know about actor-comedian Jerry Seinfeld, he had a way of dealing with telemarketers. Because, you know, if you watch his show, he'll say, well, I'm eating dinner right now, but if you give me your home number, I can get back with you and tell you if I want to do this or not. And they will tell him, I don't think I can do that because I don't want to be called at home. And he'll be like, huh, now you know how I feel. Well, a few times I've called a few people who tried that on me. They'll be like, is there a number I can call you back? And at first I proceeded to give them the toll-free number, and they would be like, is that your personal number? Oh, you want my personal number? And they'll be like, yeah, so I can call you at home at 2 o'clock in the morning and tell you if I want to do this or not. And I'll be like, oh, sure, you got something to write with? And they'll be like, it's been nice talking to you. Like they didn't see it coming. I'll be like, no, come on, I'll give you my number. You ready? That area code is 225. And I proceed to spout off my actual telephone number, and then they hang up. It's like they did not see that one coming. And we got those people that'll say, may I ask who's calling, of course. Now, here's the thing. The way they say it, I'll be like, yes, is Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so available? They'll say, instead of saying who's calling, they'll say, may I ask who's calling? And I'll be like, you sure may. Go ahead. Depending on their mood, this is what you get out of them. If they're in a bad mood and they say, may I ask who's calling? And I say, sure, go ahead. They'll fall silent. They'll be like, hello? And I'll be like, I'm waiting for you to ask who's calling. They'll be like, I did. And I'm like, no, you asked me if you can ask who's calling. So I'm just waiting for you to do that. And they'll be like, well, who's calling? There you go. That's much better. And then I'll tell them who I am and who I'm with. Or if they're in a good mood, they'll get a good laugh out of it. And the thing that gets on my nerves is when these people make you go all the way through it just to hang up. I mean, if you're not interested, fine, but hang up at the beginning so I don't have to waste time. And I've actually called people back manually about it too. Because I remember there was this one time, this one woman made me go all the way through it and hung up at the end. I dialed her ass back manually. And when she answered, I'm like, and speaking in a real angry voice, I'm like, the next time you will hang up at the very beginning of the call. Do you understand me? And she's like, you can go to hell, click. And one time, speaking of go to hell, one person actually did tell me to go to hell and hang up. Now what I did was I dialed him back manually, and when he answered, I'm like, yeah, about that. See, this is the thing. I've actually been trying to get there, but I keep getting lost. You think you could give me some directions? And he'd be like, directions to where? You know, that place you told me to go. And he's like, what, go to hell? And I'm like, yeah, that. But here's the thing. I keep getting lost. And he's like, figure it out on your own. Go to hell, click.